Brandon Brice, Detroit political activist and radio show host. Welcome to One Detroit.
All right, welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's good to talk with you. Now, Brandon, Detroit has been is being hit hard by this virus. We're up to 50 deaths already just in the city of Detroit, and that's changing every day. We're recording this on Monday. By the time we air it, the death toll is bound to be higher. Are we doing enough in the city to respond to this, to protect our city residents, and also to make sure they're getting the treatment they need?
Nolan, there's a couple of factors here. The first factor is, unfortunately, this is a crisis on top of a crisis. And so what's happening is that what coronavirus has done is it's exposed the major gaps, not only in our healthcare system, but just in overall exposing poverty. I mean, little things like whether it's the mayor or whether it's the governor, you can't be Dr. Fauci in Washington and tell people that they need water and to wash their hands when people don't have running water. I mean, this is not Rwanda, this is Detroit. And so I think that we've got some major things that need to be exposed. And unfortunately, they're already projecting we're going to have more unfortunate deaths because of this.
But Brandon, the mayor and the governor both put in measures to restore water. So that part is being taken care of. What other issues are you seeing here that are exasperated by the poverty in the city?
Well, I think the first thing is, first of all, there was a myth that certain people could not get this virus. I mean, they thought it was something that was overseas, or they thought it was something that was based in major cities. Density is a problem, but when you talk about the city of Detroit, we're talking about things like proximity. I literally just lost 3 people to this virus. And so what I'm seeing now is that when you lose someone personal that it literally makes it real for you. And I think as more Detroiters begin to lose relatives, friends, colleagues, they're going to realize that, the stay at home is not necessarily the governor asking you, but it's the governor telling you.
So do you think that'll change behaviors, the number of deaths we're seeing, and the fact that now more and more people are knowing someone who died? We've had a couple of high-profile deaths.
Right.
Representative Isaac Robinson died this week. Marlo Studemeyer, who was very well known in the community, is dead. And the police chief, James Craig, has the virus and is recovering or fighting it right now. How does that get people's attention?
Well, unfortunately, Ronald Reagan once said, when your neighbor has a crisis, you're in a depression. And so what we're seeing is that as more people begin to know people, I think are going to take it much serious. But there's a couple of other factors here, Nolan. One, we're looking at, the media, unfortunately, has not created, and I know you're the media, so I'm going to be nice to you, but
yeah, be careful.
But I got you. At this stage, what we're seeing is that there's still politics in this health crisis, and Americans at this point, we need truth. We need to know exactly what is going on, what are the findings, and I think, there were people talking about the governor and the president going back and forth about who did what. At this stage, Metro Detroiters simply want to know the truth. That's how they keep their family safe, and that's how people can protect themselves during this crisis.
How worried are you about the economic impact on people in the city? Many people working sort of jobs at the bottom of the economic ladder, service jobs that are disappeared. What is the economic consequences of all this, Brandon?
Well, the first thing I want to do is, I want to thank the heroes, the real heroes, who are the doctors, the nurses, the postal workers, some of these even in my own family. These people are literally at ground zero. And so I think we need to give them a big thanks. But the other thing is, and Nolan, it depends on who are you talking to. This is going to have major impacts on redevelopment projects for the city, on investment in the city. But then the other flip side to that, Nolan, and we know not just to talk about Detroit, but some of our forgotten cities like Highland Park, Inkster, River Rouge, many of their economies have been decimated. So
Right.
what this is doing is this is painting a brush to say, to not only check where we are, but to check, does there need to be a new direction for leadership for many of these forgotten cities who, whether this crisis hits them or affects them or not, their economy was already a bit unstable.
And poverty kills people too. There's going to be a lot of people coming out of
Absolutely.
this who will need help with not
Yep.
just financial help, but help with anxiety, depression. We know in crises like this, drug use goes up. A lot
Right.
of social problems are going to emanate from this.
Well, one of the things is I think mental health is something that I think we all need to check. I know,
Yeah,
I was saying to a colleague of mine earlier, we now understand slightly what it means to be a veteran and to serve.
yeah,
When you talk about the issues that veterans come back home with, where they've lost friends and close colleagues, literally people have lost people daily. Most Americans are not used to that, Nolan. And so there's a psyche and there's a mental health component there. But then the other thing
yeah.
is, not only are we talking about the loss of life, we're talking about, an already fragile economy in some of these places. But now we're talking about, for many of these small businesses, some of these small businesses may not recover. And so
Right.
now it's how are we preparing Americans for the next force to say, if you lost your job or if your job folded because they just couldn't hire you or had to let you go or they had to furlough you, how do we prepare the next generation of workers in places like Metro Detroit? And that's going to be a much tougher task, Nolan.
And we know that human beings are pack animals, Brandon. A lot of people are isolated, and now looks like this isolation is going to last another 3 to 4 weeks at least. What do you worry about in terms of our, our communities, our households, about this lack of social interaction?
Well, I think part of it is, we're having to say sheltered in because obviously we don't. There's still things that are unknown, Nolan. That's why information and the truth is so important. We still don't know if it's confirmed to be airborne. We know that it's person-to-person contact, but that's a factor. The other things I think we can be doing, Nolan, is really looking at planning and budgeting. When that April 30th ban is lifted, or excuse me, is shelter in home is lifted by the state. How are we preparing for the stimulus checks that are coming in? I'll tell you, Nolan, my biggest concern is that people will get these checks and essentially spend them or run through them and not save them. And I can tell you, even though the governor may say that that the sheltering in will end, or the president may say that the sheltering in should come to a close by April 30th, Nolan, this could take us months to get out of. And so I think this is a time when families really need to begin to hold back and say, maybe it's time to spend a little money just in case, just to make sure that they can make ends meet.
Well, of course, the stimulus dollars are aimed at stimulating, and if people don't spend it, it's not going to stimulate the economy. My fear is these checks are going to go right into Amazon's treasury rather than
Absolutely.
stimulate our local governments. And I think there are still some businesses, many businesses, that are open in Detroit, and you don't have to buy everything online.
But
Or at least,
Nolan, this is
not
the time,
online from Amazon.
Nolan, this is the time that you're looking at groceries. You're
Right.
looking at those things that are essential. Back when they used to say when we were kids, Nolan, about the basics, not the things you want, but the things you need.
Mhm.
Those are the things that I think those stimulus checks need to go towards. It's really kind of a getting back to basics.
Yeah. Well, I was saying, telling someone yesterday, when I was a kid, the common thing was to eat every meal at home. You didn't, restaurant was a treat. I've been to a restaurant in
Right.
2, 3 weeks now, and it doesn't look like I'm going to be at one for a while. And it's, it really is. I mean, most of us today don't have that experience of eating every meal at home, week after week after week. And
One thing, Nolan.
I'm getting a little weary of it.
The one thing, Nolan, that I try to, I always try to stay on the positive.
Mhm.
The upside to all of this crisis is that what we're seeing is there's a reemergence of family.
Yeah.
Families kind of coming together, sticking together. I know I do it. I've had people do it to me of kind of call groups just to say, hey, man, you okay? How you feeling?
Yeah.
I think in the end, it makes America and it makes Michiganders and it makes Detroiters a lot stronger to know that, whether our differences, whether our political differences, whether our socioeconomic differences, we're still a family. And at the end of the day, we're still Americans.
So just let me finish, Brandon, by asking you, over the next month, what are you worried about in terms of Detroit and your fellow Detroiters?
My biggest concern, and I've always said this, is that I think the media in Detroit, you guys and the Free Press and anybody else, has to be very fragile about what is reported. And I say that because now, we've got to be careful about the fact that we've got officers that are being pulled off the streets. When we talk about panicked people, and we talked about people who are either scared or people who are not sure of the uncertain, that could create much bigger crises. And so I think it's really about governing people's selves, making sure that the news is being accurate, and then making sure that, we're looking out for people. I know there's been folks who have said that, a lot of Detroiters, when it comes to public safety, that's been a big concern to them in an already fragile economy. And so I think my biggest concern is just making sure that law enforcement is smart about what they do, about how they manage this crisis. And then also making sure that, hoping that once, like I said, in the 3 weeks, once we get the stimulus checks, Detroiters are a little bit more careful about how they spend that money.
Brandon Brice, Detroit political consultant, radio host. Thanks for joining us on One Detroit. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.